Hello and welcome to Jennifer Knatters. Today is the 25th of July and my 51st podcast. Yay! This makes it 50 about knitting because the first one I did a little makeup thing for a friend of mine. But yeah, 51, that's a nice big number. Didn't know that I would get this far. It did take a little longer than I thought it would when I was doing them once a month. That should have been the first year. Or once a month, once a week. It has been about 6 weeks since my last podcast, so obviously life has gotten in the way. This is still recording in the time of coronavirus, and so I'm in that weird mix of both everything happening and nothing happening. One of my children is running here, so I'm just going to stop for a second. For those of you who don't know me, I have two children. I've got a 7.5-year-old today, just 7.5, and I have a 3.5-year-old, 3.5 earlier this month. The 3.5-year-old is sitting in the room with me watching her pad. So if you can hear a little bit of noise, that's most likely what it is. Alternatively, it could be the rain that has just started up on the roof of the conservatory. I live in northern Scotland, in Inverness, northern Scotland, so it does rain a fair bit. It actually was pouring it down most of today. So yeah, I live here in northern Scotland with my husband, our two children, and our two cats. I've got the 3-year-old in here, so I don't think either cat will make an appearance. Are you okay, Pumpkin? Yes, okay. I have only one finished object since last time we spoke. I have cast on all the things. I don't even have that finished object to show you. It was socks for my husband, and they have been given unto him, and he's worn them and stuff. So, starting kind of with the thing I have worked on the least, moving into whips, I'd cast off 2 socks, so I cast on 2 pairs of socks. But this one is not one that I can really do as my walking around project, so it hasn't had a lot of love. This is the Cleaved pattern by Hunter Hammersen, and you can see there's this cable developing. It's just on the one side, so this will be the inside of the leg, and it has this, maybe it's the outside of the leg. One side of the leg has this this cabled heart pattern, and that just goes down the leg into the heel flap in a very pretty way. And then I think it goes along the foot. It's been a while since I've looked at the pattern. And the yarn is Ripples Crafts Reliable Sock Yarn in a Flower Power colorway. Helen was the dyer for July's full-size skein of Flower Power yarn, and this is a Marsh Orchid colorway, which was particularly nice for me because in my lawn, and I try to keep my lawn, I mean, it's grass, but I also cultivate as many little wildflowers as I can. And I actually had a little tiny orchid pop up that is very close to this color. I don't think it was a marsh orchid, but it's certainly a very similar flower. Catherine, honey, please don't be banging on that, okay? If you want to bang on that, do you need to go in a different room? Okay. She's got a wooden xylophone now. So I have started this, but I have not particularly worked on these because I have cast on all the things since last I spoke to you, which was like July 12th or something, or June 12th, not July, it was June. It was the first third of June. So I cast on those socks, and I also cast on these socks. Again, this is a Ripples Crafts yarn and a Hunter Hammersen pattern, and this, I think this color was Heather Amongst the Storms, but it's a lot of the black and then this purple and the blue, and it's kind of striping, doing kind of micro stripes and pooling at the same time. So I made this the front so you can kind of see the zigzag go across, and it starts with this textured bit at the top, and I kind of liked it so much I thought about doing the whole sock, but it just isn't as stretchy as the ribbing, and I worried it wouldn't fit well. I think I would have needed to go up another size if I wanted the whole sock, or at least up a needle size, because it does make quite a thick fabric. So I went ahead and just did the ribbing, and then you can see the pooling. The needles are in the way. The pooling on the heel with a kind of a slip stitch pattern on the heel as well, and I have finished the decreases, so I'm now back to just going round and round with the rib only on the top half of the foot. So these are coming along quite well. I actually cast these on first, and then I started the pink ones because I just wasn't sure if I should keep doing the textured stitch or if I was going to go back to doing the rib, or if I wanted to find something that would break it up differently. But I've decided to go with this, and I'm happy with them. I'm not a huge fan of pooling. I think I've kind of learned about myself that I like stripes and I like tonals or solids, and I don't think I'm not really a variegated sock person, but I don't have a lot in my sock drawer, so we will knit a few pairs and we'll see how that goes. That brings me to jumpers. One of the ones last time I talked about the Incanabla cardigan by Carrie Westerman, and the sleeves kind of wound up being a lot longer than they were supposed to be, because they're supposed to be like elbow length sleeves, and I wasn't sure if I was going to do them full length or shorter or whatever. I have not touched it since we spoke. I have not touched it. So that has seen no love, but I have cast on 2 new pullovers. This is the first one, and I forgot to look up what this pattern is called. CotLin, which is it's a Knit Picks cotton linen DK blend, as the name implies. Silver Blossom Tea by Amy Gunderson. And you start off with this yoke at the top. Let's see if I can stretch out the lace a little bit. This lace yoke at the top, and it's just got little short sleeves. I knit down the body for a way, and then I stopped, like when I finished a skein, I went back and did the sleeves, so you can see where I haven't even taken out my waste yarn that was holding the sleeve stitches when I split for the body. So you just do like 2 rows and then the cuff. So I did that, and then I went back to knitting the front. The only change I've made so far is that I picked my size, and then instead of doing the sleeves halfway like the pattern says, I moved them, I think it was like 5 stitches on each side, so 10 stitches total towards the back. So I moved the start of the round is in the back, so I knit 5 stitches fewer, did the sleeves, knit an extra 10 stitches across the front, put the sleeves on hold, and then it was 5 stitches fewer to get to the back. And that is because my circumference, which is what you measure, is a lot more present in the front than it is in the back. I don't need as much distance across the back to go around my body. So that's just kind of my full bust adjustment for the jumper, the pullover. I've kind of been working on this one just a little bit at night, as I'm really tired and I'm just going to go round and round and round. I was working on it a bit, but then the other pullover I cast on has kind of been my priority lately. Oh, now she's gone away again. I thought she was going to join me. But at this point, I'm just going round and round and round, and then every so many rows, there's an increase to give it a slight. So I'm just going to adjust the camera a little bit because I think it got moved over, just to give it a slightly A-line going out. I tried it on last night. I put it on a couple extra. I used 3 needles, 3 cable needles. So I really want to finish this one because it's a summer weight. I think it'll be fun to wear. It looked really good when I tried it on. I haven't washed it yet. I didn't swatch for this because it's kind of just supposed to be a loosey, oversized one. So I'm sure it'll be fine either way. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done it that way. My other pullover, I absolutely did swatch for. In fact, here's my swatch. Ta-da! Swatch. And I swatched both the bottom and the top. Washed and blocked. It's in the round, so I've got all of that. So I can reuse the yarn if I want. I even have done a different size for the cable that'll be at the bottom of the jumper and the stockinette at the top. So yeah, ta-da! I have swatched. I did multiple swatches to get this right, and this is this is the pullover in progress. This is going to be, it's a test knit for Ysolda Teague, and I am using Cochrane yarn, which was a limited edition Ripples Crafts yarn. I believe this is crushed Blaeberries. It might be crushed blackberries, but I believe it is crushed Blaeberries. I am alternating 2 skeins, and that's the cable at the bottom. And then you can see from the swatch the cables will kind of just peter off, and then the rest is fairly plain. So it's going to be a boxy cropped. Hey, you can sit here, but you don't just grab my stuff and throw it out of the way, okay, Pumpkin?
No, I don't need that.
Okay, just sit down. Well, I need it right there because I'm going to show part of that, okay? Catherine, my 3-year-old, has come to join me. And sit close. Sorry, I'm whacking the camera on.
I see you.
You see Mommy.
I see you in look.
Yes, that's because I'm recording myself. This isn't like a Skype call. This is just Mommy talking to Mommy self, really. And anyone else who wants to hear about what Mommy has been knitting. Yeah.
I can see me in the camera.
Now you can see you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yeah, that one's a test knit, so I've been kind of prioritizing working on that. And
No.
okay, then just sit nicely on Mama's lap, please. So yeah, it's a test knit that will be coming out some point in the future. It doesn't have a name yet, but the yarn is so delicious.
Mom, you're too loud.
Okay, if I'm too loud, then go sit over there because Mommy's going to be talking. And if you sit on Mommy, then you get Mommy too loud. Yeah. The other project I have cast on since last we spoke is the first one for the Something to Knit Together knit along that is happening in the Arnold Colorford, the AC Knitwear Ravelry group, and more on Ravelry later, as I'm sure everyone is expecting. And this is their summer knit along, Something to Knit Together, and that's Easy Lace Patterns by Sarah Hatton in their yarn. And I ordered the kit, so this is the Twilight colorway. I think it's coming out a little purpler on the screen than it is in real life, but it is a lovely kind of indigo color. It starts with the tab cast on and a standard top-down triangle shawl with some easy lace and just a tiny bit of texture. There's some little texture panels, and then when you get to a certain point, the stitches on one side are put on hold, and then you knit it out to be a rectangle on the other side. So you can see, since I split it, that's kind of the distance I've done. So it's going to be on the bias, and then go back and do the other side. And I actually got a little confused, and I've done some of these lace bits in a different order but as long as I mirror them on the other side, like it doesn't change the stitch count or anything, in what order you do them. So this has been fun, and I got a lot of work on it right away. I believe this one launched on the 1st of July. I got a lot of work on it right away, but then the test knit started, so I have been putting a lot more effort on that, but I'm trying 1 day a week is my shawl day. I am 3 skeins in at this point. This is the something to knit with 4-ply. I believe this is being discontinued. I believe they are selling through their stash and then there won't be any more. There may be something else, but there won't be. That's my impression. So this is the first one. The second pattern for the collection has just been launched this past week. I think this past Monday. And that was a hat that just takes 1 skein, and it's a 50-gram skein of the 4-ply yarn. It's a wool alpaca blend. So that pattern has just come out, but for the duration of the knit along, it's any of the patterns that they have published, any of the patterns Sarah Hatton has published can be knit for the knit along. So I can continue working on this. And the pattern, or the collection has, it's the large shawl, the hat, there'll be 1 more small accessory, which uses 3 skeins of one color and 2 skeins of another color, because I have the kit, so I've got the yarn already. And then there is an open cardigan is the 4th. So yeah, I like Sarah Hatton's patterns. They tend to be, this is the first one I've knit, but she has a very unfussy style. And they always look very classic. She publishes a lot for magazines, and I think she does a lot of Rowan stuff. But she has a very clean aesthetic. So yeah, I thought I have enough of her patterns favorited that sight unseen, I would go ahead and order the yarn for that. So that is 2 pullovers, 2 pairs of socks, and then I haven't worked on this in a while, but I have worked on it since last we spoke. I've added another row, and I've actually added half a row beyond that, but I'll show you the full row. This is my mitered square cozy memory mini blanket. I missed the check-in for the square day knit along. I was like Mama, 50 short.
It's you now.
Am I still too loud?
Mm-hmm.
You could go sit in the lounge. But I also decided I don't want it to be 360. I think I worked out it was 360 squares was 19 by 19 square. That's going to be too big. I've got a double bed. So I think 13 by 13, which I'm almost to. Or at least I got to 10 by 10 and then I started just doing one side. So I think I'm almost at 13 for one side, and then I'll make the other side to make it 13 by 13 square, and then I can decide if I want to do any more or just rest on my laurels. But since last we spoke, I've done this kind of confetti one, a more neutral. It's got little flecks of like yellowy green and blue. This one's another one of those glow-in-the-dark yellowy ones. This pretty lilacs, the blues with a bit of the yellows in it. This one I tend to think of like a tiger print. The dark blues. This one's kind of reds and greens, blues and purples, and pinks. So I will save the next strip to show you next time. Like I said, it's not something I'm currently really working on, just because I've got the test knit and I want to finish my pullover, and I do want to finish the cardigan I haven't touched since last time because there's not a lot to do. I've already done like the neck band and the button band, so it really is just the sleeves I need to finish. I like stopping at some point and finishing off those bits because then you know how much yarn you have, so you can put all the yarn into, like if you're worried about the length, if it's top down you can put all the yarn into the length or do this, make changes for the sleeves or that kind of stuff. But I like doing some of the other finishing, the neckline and the front button band early. As soon as you can. I mean, if you're doing the front button band, you can't adjust the length of the body, but then you have as much as you want for the sleeves. Or do the sleeves first and then you know you've got the rest for the body. Those kind of decisions can help. So for that one, all I need to do is the sleeves and sew on buttons, and it is 100% done. So that should be an easy one to just finish up once I've decided what I'm going to do with it. But yeah, I've got my 3 jumpers. Those are kind of my priority right now. The sock ones have gotten a lot of love because coronavirus restrictions here in Scotland have eased. Our daily numbers, the infection numbers, and the number of people who have died numbers are all really low. We had one brief, there's been a call center, had a small outbreak, and otherwise the country's doing really, really well. So fingers crossed. The only problem is that now that Scotland's restrictions are relaxing, that means England, which does not have it under control, England, like the US, does not have coronavirus under control. But like the US, it went too early in relaxing the lockdown restrictions, and people from England who think they're fine and think it's fine because, you know, the restrictions have been relaxed, so that must mean it's better. They're traveling up into Scotland. So that's kind of our main thing we need to keep an eye on right now as a country, is if those numbers go back up. The restrictions are easing here, which is really nice because it has meant that the parks reopened a while ago, and we went like the day Nicola Sturgeon said the parks could reopen, our First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. And then about a week and a half later, the council sent out a thing saying that they would start inspecting the parks. They were going to be, you know, like rolling out. They were going park to park to inspect the playgrounds and make sure they were safe. And then at that point, they'd be opening them one at a time. And it was kind of like, oh, oops. Yeah, no, that completely makes sense. That during lockdown, no one's been doing maintenance on them, and they would need to make sure that everything is actually safe before kids should be playing on the equipment. I really feel, I mean, the date for the park's opening, I believe, at a 2-week lead up, and I really felt that the council could have put that statement out before the opening day. But yeah, we'd already been going to the park for almost every day for a week at that point. And the visual inspection, the equipment was all fine. There were lots of kids playing on it and stuff, so I wasn't too worried in that regards. I was just kind of like, no, that makes complete sense, and I didn't give it even a moment's thought. So yeah, there's that, and then they've really enjoyed. I mean, I was a bit verklempt watching the kids play together because it was one day there was a whole bunch of kids there. It was a particularly crowded day, and by particularly crowded, I mean there were a couple of groups variously all over the park, but like I took a picture of the kids playing, and it's just, you can't see anyone else in the picture, it's just the large big stretch. So particularly crowded still is not anything at all. This is just a small neighborhood park. It doesn't have anything special where anyone would, like some parks are extra fun and you might go, drive to get to them, or that this one's not extra fun. It's just a regular kind of smallish park that then has lots of green fields. It's a good dog walking park and stuff like that. But it's big with just a little playground off to one side, and you can't see anyone else in this picture, but there were a lot, particularly of my 7-year-old's classmates were there, so they were all playing together. And I was a bit choked up watching them because it was so good to see them playing and having fun and being able to interact again. Because we live right next to the woods here, and I remember there was one day in May, I think, when we were walking in the woods, and we passed another family, and they had 2 little girls. I actually know the family their little girl's a year above Christina, my 7-year-old, and their younger daughter is going into P1 this year, so she's a year to, I guess this was supposed to have been Catherine's first year of nursery, but she basically missed the whole thing because she was supposed to start after Easter. So I'm hoping she'll get the 2 full years of nursery. So she's moving up this year. So they're just a little older than my kids, and they kind of saw each other, and all 4 of them just kind of stopped and stared, and you could see that it was just like, please, can we play? And, you know, as parents, we're kind of like, no, come on, we're not allowed to. And it was honestly one of the saddest things is seeing kids to play with and having to tell your children, no, you can't, we're not allowed, it's not safe. So seeing kids be able to have fun, like that's the bit that's been the hardest, is having to say no to my kids all the time, say no, we can't do that fun thing. I mean, I'm still doing it. They're like, let's go to the beach. We don't drive, so we'd have to take public transit to get there, and that's longer on public transit than I think is safe right now. That and the weather's been terrible. If there was one really good, nice sunny day this early in the lockdown easing restrictions, at this point, it's kind of been long enough that I'm starting to be a bit more cautious again. But if like that first week, the restrictions really eased, the weather had been nice instead of raining the whole time, like with the lowest number of people infected and people haven't traveled around enough to spread it, like it hasn't a chance to spread again, that would have been the time to go. But the weather was terrible, and since we don't drive, you can't really go and be like, oh, well, is it crowded? No, it's not crowded. Okay, we can stay for a bit. But they want to go swimming, and we can't go swimming. Christina really wants to do gymnastics, but they haven't even started that back up again, because these are all indoor things here. So they want to go to the indoor soft play place. I'm like, no, we can't do that either. There's just a lot of no for kids. We did go into town the first week the restrictions eased. We got the bus into town, and I got them measured for shoes. Christina's shoes were falling apart, but her shoe size hasn't changed, but she did need new shoes because the toes had worn through on her old ones. Catherine had gone up 2 shoe sizes, so she needed new shoes. I bought them some clothes. They'd been wanting sunglasses back half of March, most of April, most of May. We're unusually sunny and warm here in Scotland. One sunny day, one rainy day, a couple of each is more our normal pattern, but it was just basically sunny the whole time, and they both wanted sunglasses like I have, but I couldn't go get them some, and ordering things online was, like I ordered a bike helmet for the 3-year-old because her head is smaller than the smallest helmet we've gotten for my now 7-year-old, and it took 6 weeks to show up. Ordering things online was sporadic and not working out well for a lot of things, so got a bunch of that kind of stuff. And then for several, like now the 3-year-old is constantly asking me if we can go back into town. I'm like, no, we need to stay home. It's still safest to stay home as much as you can. If you need to go out, it's not as dangerous. Like you can go out a little bit, but still, the more people who stay home, the more you stay home, the better this will be for everyone. It's harder for things to spread if you're not there to spread them. So that's, and then school for them should start in 2 weeks. There's 2 more weeks of holiday. So then that 3rd week is when the schools will start up again here in Scotland. And in next week, they're supposed to announce officially whether they're going back with some kind of distance learning plan or if they're going back full time. It currently looks like they're going back full time. The nursery has said the kids can have the hours you requested, but they haven't sent out an official, like, here is your letter saying what your kids' hours are. But the hours I requested were the government was supposed to fund 30 hours a week of nursery, up from 16 hours. And Nicola Sturgeon had said that because schools can't be building the extra facilities and hiring the extra staff, that it wasn't going to be an enforced rollout. But she has said, like, if you can do it, do it. And if you can't do it, then don't worry about it just yet. You know, try to get up to there by the end of the year, maybe. And then the Highland Council set out a thing. So it sounds like the nursery has the hours, but the council won't be funding it. But then if they're not funding it, I don't want the hours. Like, I'm not going to be paying for the hours. Since I am a stay-at-home, we don't have the income, and I can watch her just fine. And I wasn't going to be sending her full-time anyway. I was hoping to get a job, and then I could be flexible about when I could work. It's raining a fair bit louder. I'm sorry if that is drowning me out. The only other thing I really had to say, other than I'd really like to hear from the nursery about what's happening, is we did really well in the garden. We planted lots of broccoli. We were eating broccoli for weeks. We have lots of peas. We're still eating lots of peas. We had broad beans that we picked and we're eating. We've got a fair number of radishes, but it turns out the only one who really likes radishes is my 3-year-old. And then she only likes radishes if she's stealing them off of someone else's plate, which has lately been my technique for getting her to eat lots of things, is I'll just be like, oh look, I brought myself a bowl of whatever, and then she'll be like, I'm going to steal that, and then she eats it all, and I'm like, aha, that was my plan all along. Which I know I really should be working on teaching her not to steal other people's food, but right now I'm just happy she's eating. My older one is one of the kids who likes to live on sunshine and doesn't eat a whole heck of a lot, so we have a lot of like anything you can do to get a kid to eat policies. We got lots of strawberries. We had a couple of raspberries, 1 or 2. We had butterflies in our darn it, now I've forgotten the family names. It's the broccolis, the Brussels sprouts, mustard, the mustard family. We found some caterpillars on there, so I let them have 1 kale, which was in its own bucket. I'm like, that's far enough from the others. The caterpillars can just eat that. And then I went and looked for eggs on all my other stuff and didn't see any. But then a week later, there was a new set of the tiniest little caterpillars you've ever seen. So I moved them over to what was left of the first kale. It was like, as I was pulling out the broccoli, I'm peeling off leaves and sticking them really well in the garden department as far as that goes. Although peas, we finished off the broad beans, we finished off the broccoli, though I do have more sprouts for those, more seedlings. Careful, pumpkin. So yeah, lots of yummy things in the garden, getting a better idea of what Catherine, you're making lots of noise, please stop. Better idea of what my kids like to eat, which is peas. They really like to eat peas. They had some of the broccoli. They did not want to have broccoli every night like my husband and I did. We did have house butterflies. We ordered a little set of little butterflies that you can, little jar of food, and they grow big and they do chrysalis, and then they open and you feed them fruit and then you let them go in the garden. So we let them go in the garden last week. We had some friends over and all of them got to hold a butterfly briefly. That's pretty much me caught up, and hopefully next time I talk to you I'll have finished at least 1, if not 2 of the pullovers and at least 1 or 2 socks. And maybe another row on my little squares blanket. Anyway, that's me done, and hopefully I will talk to you again soon. Thank you very much. Bye.